In 2009, a strange video appeared on YouTube. No description, no thumbnail, no explanation of what you were about to see. Just a title, just a comment section, and 300 views. The video showed a humanoid figure standing stiffly in a living room, singing the same 3 words on a loop, over and over and over again. At first it looked like nothing, a strange art project, a student experiment. But then people started watching longer, and the longer they watched, the more something began to feel deeply, fundamentally wrong. The figure's face never changed, the song never stopped. And somewhere in the background, if you watched closely enough, there was a flash of outdoor footage. A hill, grass, something that wasn't supposed to be there. That one detail was enough. Within weeks, thousands of people were trying to find the creator. They dug through forum posts. They reverse-searched audio clips. They cross-referenced usernames across 4 different platforms. And they found almost nothing. The creator had vanished. The website connected to the video disappeared. And all that was left was the question. But here is what nobody mentions when they tell that story. When the creator finally did resurface, years later, the explanation he gave raised more questions than it answered. We'll get to that. Now here is the thing. If that exact video appeared on the internet today, in 2025, something very different would happen. Within 10 minutes, someone would post in the comments, "This is obviously AI generated." Someone else would upload a debunk video. A Reddit thread would pop up within the hour explaining the audio program used to make the voice. And within 24 hours, whatever mystery existed would be completely dead. Gone. So the question I want to ask today is this. Did the internet stop creating mysteries, or did we lose the ability to experience them? Because somewhere between the early days of YouTube, the dark corners of old forums, and an internet that nobody fully understood yet, something changed. And today, we are going to find out exactly what. To understand why internet mysteries feel different now, you first have to understand what the old internet actually was. And I don't mean technically. I mean emotionally. What did it feel like? For most people who grew up with it, and I'm talking about the late 1990s through the mid-2000s, the internet wasn't something you carried around with you. It wasn't in your pocket. It wasn't on your watch. It was a place you went to. You sat down at a specific computer, at a specific desk, and you connected. There was an actual sound when you connected. A screech, a buzzing, a series of tones that sounded like a machine trying to negotiate with another machine. And then you were in. But you had to be deliberate about where you went. There was no algorithm pushing content toward you. There was no For You page. There was no infinite scroll. There was a blank search bar, and you had to know what to type. Most people stuck to the same few websites: Google, Yahoo, early YouTube, MSN. But for a small percentage of people, those websites weren't the destination. They were just the door. And behind that door, things existed that were never meant to be found. They found the weird forums, the personal websites built in raw HTML with no professional design, the video sharing sites that weren't YouTube, the image boards, the obscure communities built around specific obsessions, paranormal phenomena, conspiracy theories, unsolved crimes, strange events. And in those places, things appeared that didn't have explanations. A video with no creator information, a website with no contact page, an image that nobody could identify. And here is the critical thing. There was no way to instantly find out if it was real. You couldn't reverse image search it. You couldn't run it through an AI detection tool. You couldn't look up the metadata in seconds. All you had was the content itself, and your own judgment, and the willingness to believe, even briefly, that something unexplained was genuinely unexplained. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, The thing you were looking at genuinely didn't add up. The metadata said one thing. The content said something different. The timestamp was impossible. The username had been deleted 4 hours after uploading. You couldn't explain it. And that inability to explain it, that specific gap in your understanding, was where the mystery lived. That feeling, that combination of isolation, curiosity, and genuine uncertainty, was the ecosystem that internet mysteries grew in. It required a specific kind of environment to survive. And what we have to understand is that environment no longer exists. But before I tell you what killed that environment, I need to show you what it was capable of producing, because some of those mysteries were extraordinary. And one of them started with a video that, even today, nobody has fully explained. Let me take you back to the specific case that started this video. In 2009, a user named John Bergen uploaded a video to YouTube. The title was, "I Feel Fantastic." The video showed a humanoid robot, or more specifically, a mannequin fitted with servo mechanisms named Tara. Tara stood in a living room and sang. The song was a single melody, repeated without any variation. The lyrics were 3 words. "I feel fantastic," over and over and over. At first, most people who stumbled upon it dismissed it. A strange art project, someone testing robotic movement and voice synthesis. But then the video began spreading, first to Reddit, then to 4chan, then to early creepypasta forums. And as it spread, the questions started multiplying. Who was John Bergen? Nobody could find a real-world profile for him. His YouTube account had almost no other activity. And more importantly, there was a moment in the video. A brief few seconds where the camera shows outdoor footage. Tara lying on grass. A pan toward a hill in the distance. Someone pointed this out in a forum post. And the theory that followed became one of the first major viral internet horror stories. People began claiming Bergen had murdered a woman, built Tara as a robotic replica of her, and that the outdoor footage showed the hill where he buried the victim. There was no evidence for any of this. But here is the thing that kept people hooked. There was no evidence against it either, because Bergen had gone completely silent. His account went dark. His email addresses bounced. His online presence evaporated overnight. And that wasn't the strangest part. In 2010, curious users found a connected website, tarathiandroid.com. It described Tara as part of a robotics and voice synthesis research project. It had clips, version notes, technical documentation, the kind of documentation that would explain everything. And then the website disappeared. Within 72 hours of being discovered, it was gone. Bergen went silent. His online presence vanished, which made people ask a question they hadn't thought of before. If there was nothing sinister going on, if this was just an innocent engineering project, why did someone take the website down the moment people started looking at it? Nobody had an answer. By 2012, I Feel Fantastic had become a permanent piece of internet mythology. Hundreds of theory videos, analysis of Tara's voice synthesis software, breakdowns of every frame. Years later, the real story did surface. Bergen came forward and explained that Tara was simply a personal engineering project, a voice synthesis experiment. Nothing more sinister than a man who was passionate about robotics. But when people read that explanation, something strange happened. It didn't end the discussion. It started a new one, because Bergen's explanation didn't account for the website disappearing. It didn't explain why he vanished for years before resurfacing. It didn't address the outdoor footage. His explanation was probably true, but it wasn't complete. And in that gap, in the space between probably true and completely explains everything, the legend had already taken root and refused to leave. Now, I want you to hold that story in your head for a moment. And I want you to ask yourself why it worked. Why did millions of people get genuinely unsettled by a robotic figure singing a 3-word song? The answer is something we'll return to later. But first, let me show you a second case. Because I Feel Fantastic was not an isolated incident. This was happening all across the internet at the same time, and the next case is different from I Feel Fantastic in an important way. Because I Feel Fantastic was eventually explained, this one wasn't. Around the same period, another video began spreading through the darkest corners of the early web. This one is known simply as Blank Room Soup, sometimes called Freaky Soup Guy. The footage is stark. A man sits at a small white table in a completely white room. No decoration, no windows, no context. He is crying. As he cries, he eats a bowl of soup, and standing on either side of him are 2 large figures in black and white cartoon mascot costumes with oversized heads. They are gently patting him on the back, comforting him. There is no music, no dialogue, no explanation, no beginning, no end. The video just exists, in its complete absence of context. And that absence was the thing that broke people. Was this a kidnapping? Was this performance art? Why was the man crying? Who made the costumes? Why was everything white? Theories spread across forums for years. Some claimed it was footage from a genuine hostage situation, that the man was being forced to eat food that wasn't what it appeared to be. Others said it was an experimental art film. Then investigators thought they had the answer. The costumes were traced to a performance group called Ray Ray. Ray Ray confirmed that costumes matching the description of those in the video had been stolen from their studio. That should have ended the investigation. The costumes were identified. There was a real origin, except it didn't end anything, because Ray Ray couldn't identify the man. They couldn't say when the video was filmed or where. They confirmed the costumes were theirs, but they said they had no knowledge of any filming involving a man crying and eating soup, so the costumes were explained. And that explanation made the man in the video even harder to identify. To this day, no one has definitively explained the Blank Room Soup video. The man's identity remains unknown. The purpose of the footage remains unknown, and that is why it is still remembered. Not because it was graphic, not because it was technically impressive, but because it never gave you the answer. And then there is the case that might be the purest example of early internet mythology, Suicide Mouse. The legend goes like this. Sometime in the early 2000s, a file began circulating online. It was called SuicideMouse.avi. According to the people sharing it, it was a lost piece of Disney animation. A cartoon from the 1930s that had been hidden in the studio's archives, never meant to be seen by the public. The video showed Mickey Mouse walking down a black and white street. But the street never ended. The background repeated in a loop. The same sidewalk, the same buildings, over and over. At first, the animation seemed normal. Early Disney, slightly crude, harmless. But after several minutes, the audio began to change. A low static crept in beneath the piano soundtrack. The buildings began to distort. Mickey's expression shifted. And then, according to the legend, at the very end of the video, there was a sound. Not music, not Mickey. A human scream. The original creepypasta claiming to describe the video said it was discovered by a Disney archivist digitizing old animation cells, and that after viewing the full video, the archivist took his own life. There was never any evidence of this. The file itself was not an original Disney animation. But that didn't matter. The story spread because it was perfect. It took something familiar, Mickey Mouse, the most wholesome cartoon character in American history, and suggested that beneath the surface of that wholesome image was something genuinely dark. It played on the fear that things you trusted could be hiding something terrible. And in 2008, That fear was enough to make millions of people believe, even for a moment. Even knowing it was probably fake, they believed anyway. And that deliberate act of choosing to believe something you suspected wasn't true, that willingness to suspend your rational mind in exchange for the experience of genuine mystery, drove something remarkable. It didn't just create an audience, it created an army of investigators, and what they built around these mysteries was unlike anything the internet had produced before. Oh, here is something that is easy to forget about those early internet mysteries. People didn't just watch them, they investigated. When I Feel Fantastic appeared, the response wasn't just, "That's creepy." The response was to organize. Users coordinated across multiple forums to research John Bergen's background. They cataloged every detail of the video. They created annotated breakdowns. They tracked down the connected website. They documented its disappearance. There was a community infrastructure around the mystery, and here is the part that most people miss. That community infrastructure didn't just preserve the mystery, it manufactured meaning. Because when you see thousands of people genuinely trying to solve something, when you see hours of work being poured into theories and counter-theories and evidence breakdowns, your brain receives a signal that says, "This must be worth investigating. This must be real." In the years between 2007 and 2015, an entire ecosystem of this emerged. YouTube channels dedicated to lost media, forums with tens of thousands of posts cataloging unexplained videos, thread archives where people tracked the progress of ongoing investigations for months. The investigations themselves became a form of storytelling. Each forum post was another chapter. Each new theory was a plot twist. Each dead end was a cliffhanger. And the audience wasn't passive. They were participants. They contributed to the story. They named the videos. They gave the mysteries their identities. I Feel Fantastic, Blank Room Soup, SuicideMouse. These aren't the creators' titles in most cases. These are names the internet gave to things it found and claimed as its own. But I want to show you a case that makes this point better than any of those three examples. Because this case tested whether the investigation itself, not the mystery, was the real product. In 2013, a YouTube channel called Webdriver Torso began uploading videos. Thousands of them. Each one was identical in structure. A series of colored rectangles, red, blue, occasionally others, flashing on a black background for approximately 11 seconds, accompanied by a beeping tone. No description, no title beyond a series of numbers, no user information, no response to any comments or contact attempts. By the time anyone noticed the channel, it had already uploaded over 77,000 of these videos. That number stopped people cold. Not because the videos were scary, because 77,000 videos of colored rectangles uploaded by an account nobody could identify pointed towards something systematic, something deliberate, something that would require enormous resources to maintain. The investigations that followed were extraordinary. Some researchers analyzed the audio frequencies of the beeping tones, looking for patterns consistent with number stations. Radio broadcasts used during the Cold War to transmit encrypted messages to spies in the field. Others mapped the upload times and found a pattern. The videos were uploaded in clusters, always from the same IP region, always in the same format. And then something genuinely strange happened. One video in the 77,000 was different. A single upload, buried deep in the archive, showed what appeared to be the Eiffel Tower. Just the tower, nothing else. Same black background, same duration. No explanation for why it was there. People speculated for months. Was it a message? A test? An error? The consensus that eventually formed was, the Eiffel Tower clip was a calibration test. The channel was testing its automated upload process with a real-world visual before switching back to the rectangle pattern. which implied that whoever was running Webdriver Torso had a reason for it, a purpose, a destination. The investigation eventually reached Google, who confirmed that Webdriver Torso was an automated testing account for YouTube's video upload infrastructure. The rectangles and tones were simply test patterns to check video quality. An anticlimactic explanation. Genuinely mundane. But here is the thing. The investigation that preceded it, the months of collective analysis, the frequency mapping, the timestamp clustering, the theories about spy networks, that investigation was real. It was meaningful work. It built community. The mystery didn't matter. The investigation did. The community built around Webdriver Torso wasn't investigating because they thought it was definitely a spy channel. They were investigating because investigating was itself the point. It was the activity. It was the shared project. And that shared project required the mystery to remain open long enough to allow the investigation to form. The forums themselves were architecturally perfect for this kind of investigation. They were organized by thread. A single mystery could have hundreds of pages of discussion, each page building on the last. Newcomers had to read through everything before contributing, which meant they absorbed the full history of the mystery before adding their own theory. This created a collective knowledge base, a shared mythology. When you arrived at a mystery, you weren't discovering it alone. You were joining an ongoing investigation. You were inheriting all the work that had come before you. And that sense of joining something ongoing, that sense of community, made the experience feel significant. It felt like you were part of something larger than yourself, like you were a detective in a case that mattered. That feeling doesn't exist on the modern internet, not because people stopped being curious, but because the architecture that enabled it was systematically dismantled. And the dismantling happened faster than anyone realized. In 2006, Twitter launched. In 2005, Reddit had already been operating for a year. In 2007, the iPhone arrived. These three events, more than anything else, began dismantling the conditions that internet mysteries needed to survive. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but structurally. Until you look at it from the perspective of what mystery actually requires to survive. Before social media scaled, information traveled slowly. A strange video would appear on a niche forum. It would spread to a slightly bigger forum, then to early Reddit, then to 4chan. This process took weeks, sometimes months. During those weeks, the mystery had time to develop. Theories formed, evidence was gathered. The community had extended contact with the mystery. By the time it reached mainstream awareness, there was already a deep mythology around it. Now, information travels in hours. A strange video appears on TikTok. It reaches Twitter within the hour. Reddit aggregates the top theories by the end of the day. A YouTube explainer is uploaded before the week is out. The mystery never has time to breathe. By the time most people encounter it, someone has already explained it. The investigation has already happened. And you are arriving at the solved case, not the open one. But here is the part that most people don't think about. Even when the explanation is wrong, it kills the mystery. A fast, confident, wrong explanation spreads just as quickly as a correct one. Someone posts, "This is clearly a marketing stunt for brand. 3,000 upvotes, 2,000 shares." And the investigation effectively ends, even though the explanation was completely fabricated by a stranger on the internet who hadn't done any actual research. The mystery wasn't solved, it was suffocated. In 2005, the average internet user encountered a small fraction of the content available today. This meant that when something strange appeared in your circle of the internet, it was unusual. It stood out. Strange things stood out because they were surrounded by ordinary things. But today, every platform feeds you an unending stream of bizarre, extreme, unusual content at all times. Your brain has recalibrated its baseline of what is strange. Something that would have been genuinely shocking in 2008 might barely register as unusual in 2025. The threshold for what triggers genuine curiosity and investigation has risen dramatically. And here is where it gets interesting, because this recalibration doesn't just affect what you find scary, it affects what you find worth investigating. When the strange is constant, the investigation becomes a triage problem. Which of these 1,000 inexplicable things deserves your attention? And the answer, in almost every case, is none of them. Because you'll see another one in 4 minutes. Reddit and Twitter didn't just accelerate the spread of information. They accelerated the spread of skepticism. Both platforms architecturally reward the person who explains things. A Reddit comment that debunks a mystery gets upvoted, gets seen by thousands of people, gets quoted in replies. The person who says, "Here is the prosaic explanation for this strange thing," receives more social reward than the person who says, "I don't know what this is." This created a cultural incentive to debunk, to be the person who already knows the answer. And that cultural incentive systematically erodes the space in which mystery can exist, because mystery requires uncertainty to survive. The moment someone authoritatively says, "This has been explained," the mystery dies, even if the authoritative person is wrong. By 2015, the combination of these factors had already significantly damaged the ecosystem. The classic internet mysteries had all been investigated to exhaustion. I Feel Fantastic was explained. Blank Room Soup was explained. SuicideMouse was explained. Webdriver Torso was explained. New mysteries emerged, but they never had the same hold on the collective imagination. They moved too fast. They were explained too quickly. The communities that formed around them were too large and too connected to allow the isolated mythology to develop. But there was still something left, a residue of mystery culture, a corner of the internet where people still investigated, still wondered, still chose to believe. And then something arrived that didn't just accelerate the death of internet mystery. It made the death permanent. In the early months of 2023, the internet changed permanently. Not because AI was new, not because generative models were new, but because for the first time, AI was capable enough and accessible enough that anyone could produce convincing artificial images, video, and audio in seconds. And the internet knew it. And that knowledge changed everything. The specific damage AI inflicted on internet mystery culture is something that almost nobody has talked about directly. Here is the mechanism. When I Feel Fantastic appeared in 2009, the question the internet asked was, "What is this?" There were multiple possible answers. A student project, performance art, something darker, something genuinely inexplicable. The range of possible explanations was wide, and within that wide range, the human mind's instinct toward pattern recognition and narrative construction went to work. We built stories. Now, when a strange video appears, the question the internet asks is different. The question is this AI? That is not a wide range. That is a binary, real or not real, genuine or generated. And the moment that becomes the primary question, the window for genuine mystery closes. Because a mystery requires you to remain open to multiple possible explanations. The moment AI becomes the default answer to every unexplained thing, you have replaced open curiosity with a closed dismissal. You have given the brain a convenient exit from the work of wondering. And the brain will take that exit almost every time. In 2013, it triggered a genuine investigation. Months of sustained collective analysis. When something very similar appeared on YouTube in 2024, a new account, unexplained videos, the same strange, systematic feel, the comment section had one response: AI slop. 2 words, posted within minutes of the first video going up, and the investigation that would have taken months in 2013 took 30 seconds in 2024. The skepticism is earned. The internet is genuinely saturated with AI-generated content designed to appear mysterious. There are entire channels dedicated to manufacturing fake mysteries, fake lost media, fake ARGs, fake paranormal events, all using generative AI tools. The skepticism is the rational response to the current environment. But it has a cost. The cost is the permanent foreclosure of genuine wonder, because the same reflex that correctly identifies an AI-generated fake also incorrectly dismisses real mysteries. And we have no reliable way to tell which response we're having at any given moment. What would happen if a genuinely unexplained video appeared today? If something truly strange surfaced on the internet with no explanation? Something that was actually not AI, actually not a known art project, actually beyond any simple explanation? The honest answer is, it would be dismissed. Immediately. Automatically. Without investigation. Because the cultural apparatus that would have preserved it, the forum threads, the collective investigation, the sustained community attention, no longer exists in the form it once did. The conditions that allowed I Feel Fantastic to become mythology would have killed it in 2025 before the myth had time to form. Let me bring you back to where we started. In 2009, a video of a humanoid figure singing 3 words on a loop became one of the internet's most examined mysteries. Thousands of people spent real time, real hours, genuinely trying to understand it. And even after the explanation eventually surfaced, a man, a robotics project, nothing sinister. The mythology persisted. Because the mythology had already been built. The community had already given it weight and texture and history. The investigation was the mystery, not the video itself. Now here is the real answer to the question I asked at the start. Did the internet stop creating mysteries? No. Strange things still appear on the internet every day. Unexplained videos, unidentified sounds, objects nobody can identify, events nobody can explain. The raw material of mystery is still there. But we have changed. We have become faster, more connected, more informed, more skeptical. We have built tools that explain things before they can become mysterious. And we have built a culture that rewards the person who explains over the person who wonders. In 1999, if you stumbled onto a strange website at 2 a.m, you were genuinely alone with it. Just you, the screen, and the question. And in that solitude, the mystery had space to grow. Today, you are never alone with a strange thing. The moment you encounter it, you are connected to millions of others who are also encountering it, who are already explaining it, already debunking it, already moving on. The mystery is shared before it can become personal. And mystery, at its core, is a personal experience. It requires isolation, uncertainty, time. 3 things the modern internet has systematically removed. So maybe the question isn't whether the internet lost its mysteries. Maybe the question is whether we lost the capacity to sit with the unknown long enough to let it become something. Whether in our rush to explain everything, to debunk everything, to categorize everything, we accidentally explained away the part of the internet that made us feel like children in the dark, genuinely unsure of what was out there, genuinely unsure of what was real, because maybe there was something valuable in that uncertainty, something that Wikipedia articles and debunk videos and AI detection tools cannot replace. And somewhere on the internet right now, not in a Reddit thread someone bookmarked, not in a YouTube video that's building to a reveal, somewhere quiet, somewhere nobody has thought to look yet, there is probably something that doesn't make sense, something genuinely unexplained, something that, if it had appeared in 2009, would have become the next I Feel Fantastic, the next SuicideMouse, the next case that kept thousands of people up at night, theorizing, investigating, believing. But it won't. Because when you find it, your first instinct won't be curiosity. It will be dismissal. You'll say AI before you've even finished watching it. And the mystery will die in the time it takes to type 2 letters. The internet didn't lose its mysteries. It lost the people who were still willing to believe in them. And maybe the scariest part of that is that we're not getting them back.